A rebellion can survive defeat and loss only if someone still believes the future can be bigger than the past. Star Wars Episode 8: The Last Jedi begins with the Resistance nearly broken. The First Order is tightening its grip on the galaxy. Luke Skywalker has been found, but he is not the hero Rey expected. Kylo Ren is growing more dangerous, torn between fury and emptiness. And every character is about to learn the same painful lesson, that survival is not enough if fear and pride keep deciding what comes next. Poe Dameron leads a bold attack against a First Order dreadnought, buying time for the fleet to flee. It is thrilling, reckless, and expensive. The target is destroyed, but the Resistance loses nearly all of its bombers and many of the people aboard them. General Leia Organa understands that immediately. Poe sees the mission as a victory because the dreadnought is gone. Leia sees the cost and knows the Resistance cannot afford losses like that again. This becomes one of the film's strongest themes. Bravery matters, but so does responsibility. While the fleet escapes, Rey reaches the remote island of Ahch-To and finally stands before Luke Skywalker. She offers him the old lightsaber like the future itself is placing a burden back in his hands, but Luke does not respond like a legend returning home. He rejects the weapon and the role attached to it. He has cut himself off from the Force and abandoned the fight because he believes the Jedi legacy has done more harm than good. Rey cannot understand this at first. Luke is bitter and ashamed by what he believes he destroyed. Through their conversations, the story slowly reveals the wound beneath everything. Luke had tried to rebuild the Jedi. Among his students was Ben Solo, Leia, and Han's son. Luke saw darkness growing in Ben and for one terrible instant thought about killing him before that darkness could spread. He stopped himself immediately, but Ben saw the moment, felt betrayed, and turned. That failure shattered Luke's belief in himself and in the Jedi legacy as a whole. Rey refuses to give up on him. She believes Luke can still help, and more than that, she needs him to. She is still trying to understand who she is and where she belongs in this fight. Luke begins teaching her, but not in the way she imagined. He does not open by celebrating Jedi greatness. He starts with warnings. He tells her the Force does not belong to the Jedi, and that the old Order arrogance helped create the disasters that followed. As Rey trains, something deeply strange begins happening between her and Kylo Ren. Through the Force, the two start seeing and speaking to each other across impossible distance. At first, both think it is a trick or an attack, but the connection keeps returning. Kylo sees Rey's confusion, loneliness, and need for belonging. Rey sees the conflict still living inside him. Neither of them fully trusts what they are experiencing, but both are drawn into it. The First Order discovers a way to track ships through hyperspace, which means escape is no longer escape at all. Supreme Leader Snoke pursues them relentlessly, turning the middle of the film into a slow siege through space. Fuel is running out, nerves are cracking, and the Resistance has no clear way to break the chase. Leia tries to hold everyone together, but she is gravely injured when Kylo leads an attack on the flagship bridge. In one of the film's most revealing moments, Kylo hesitates before firing on his mother. He cannot bring himself to do it, even though others complete the attack for him. That hesitation matters because it proves that despite all his rage and performance, Ben Solo is not empty inside. There is still conflict there, and that conflict is exactly what makes him dangerous. With Leia unconscious, Vice Admiral Holdo takes command. Poe immediately distrusts her because she will not reveal her full plan to him. He reads this as weakness or surrender, while she sees him as reckless and unready for command-level information. Their conflict becomes another version of the same lesson the movie keeps returning to. Not every withheld plan is cowardice, and not every challenge to authority is wisdom. Finn wants to protect Rey and stop the First Order tracker so the Resistance can survive. He teams up with mechanic Rose Tico, whose sister died during the opening bomber assault. Rose believes in the cause with a fierceness shaped by grief, and together they are sent on a mission that may be the fleet's last chance. Their target is a First Order tracker device, but to reach it they need a master codebreaker. This leads them to Canto Bight, the glittering casino city where the wealthy stay untouched while the galaxy burns elsewhere. Weapons dealers sell to both the Resistance and the First Order, while children work in stables and elites gamble in luxury. Finn and Rose arrive looking for help and instead walk straight into a world that treats suffering as background noise. They never find the exact man they came for. Instead, they end up working with a slicer known as DJ, a slippery opportunist who survives by staying uncommitted. He helps them escape prison and reach the First Order ship, but he also represents a worldview the film keeps challenging. DJ believes sides are meaningless, causes are for fools, and self-preservation is the only honest choice. Rose rejects that idea completely. Back on Ahch-To, Rey pushes deeper into Luke history and into her own bond with Kylo. She sees that Luke's failure with Ben was more complicated than he first admitted. Luke's perspective is not false, but it is incomplete, shaped by shame. From Ben's point of view, the uncle he trusted stood over him ready to kill him. That split matters because fear can turn one instant of weakness into years of destruction. Rey becomes convinced that Ben can still be turned. Luke, having seen how badly hope can fail, wants no part in that belief. Their conflict reaches its breaking point when Rey leaves the island to confront Kylo directly. She believes the same thing Luke once believed about Vader, that someone seen as lost can still come back. Luke sees only repetition, the same cycle beginning again. On the Resistance flagship, Poe grows so frustrated with Holdo's secrecy that he stages a mutiny. He thinks he is saving the fleet. In reality, he is playing straight into disaster. Because he cannot trust what he cannot control, he turns on the very people trying to keep the Resistance alive. Leia recovers just in time to stop the mutiny, and Poe is forced to confront the truth that leadership is not about charging into danger first. Finn, Rose, and DJ succeed in reaching the tracker room, but the mission collapses when DJ betrays them for money and safe passage. This betrayal fits everything the film has built around him. He was always going to choose himself. The consequence is brutal. The First Order learns that the Resistance plans to abandon ship in cloaked transports and hide on the old rebel base on Crate. What looked like a desperate but workable escape plan is suddenly exposed. Meanwhile, Rey surrenders herself to Kylo and is taken before Snoke. This throne room sequence becomes the film's emotional centerpiece because it flips several expectations at once. Snoke believes he has complete control. He thinks he has linked Rey and Kylo through the Force to bring his enemies into one final trap. He mocks Rey hope, toys with Kylo pain, and assumes the future will unfold exactly as he commands. Instead, Kylo kills Snoke. Kylo does not kill Snoke to return to the light. He kills him because he wants to seize control for himself. What follows is a fierce fight as Rey and Kylo battle Snoke guards side by side. For a few minutes it feels like the bond between them might become something healing. But as soon as the fight ends, the truth surfaces. Kylo does not want to come back to Leia, to Luke, or to who he was. He wants Rey to join him in burying the old world entirely and building something new under his rule. Rey refuses. She is drawn to him, but she will not surrender her conscience to his vision. Their struggle over Luke's lightsaber leaves it split in two and sends Rey back toward the collapsing Resistance while Kylo rises as the new Supreme Leader. By now the Resistance has reached Crate, but the First Order attack is already underway. The cloaked transports are being destroyed. Finn and Rose return too late to stop the slaughter. Holdo remains behind on the flagship, and in one final act of sacrifice she turns the ship around and drives it through Snoke's massive vessel at lightspeed. The move is catastrophic, destroying much of the First Order fleet and buying the survivors precious time. It is one of the clearest answers the film gives to Poe's earlier mistake. Real leadership is sometimes quiet, and real sacrifice is not always loud until the moment it happens. On Crate, the surviving Resistance members make their last stand in an old abandoned base. Their numbers are now so low the movement feels close to extinction. The First Order arrives with walkers, siege weapons, and complete confidence that this is the end. Finn, desperate and furious, tries to sacrifice himself by flying directly into the siege cannon. Rose stops him, nearly killing herself in the process because she has understood something he has not. It has to be won by protecting what still remains. And then Luke Skywalker returns. Luke does not come back as a warrior who cuts down an army and restores the past. He walks out alone, calm and impossible, facing the entire First Order so the last survivors of the Resistance can escape. Kylo is enraged by the sight of him and throws the full weight of his power and firepower at what he believes is the man who ruined his life. But Luke is not there in the ordinary sense. He is projecting himself across the galaxy through the Force, standing on Crate while his body remains on Ahch-To. This reveal matters because it completes Luke's arc beautifully. He does return, but not as a myth of violence. He returns as hope, distraction, and mercy. He gives Leia, Rey, Finn, and the others the time they need. He confronts Kylo without striking him down. He becomes the legend the galaxy needed without repeating the failures that once broke him. Rey, guided by the Force and by the old Jedi texts she saved, lifts the rocks blocking the Resistance escape route and helps the survivors flee aboard the Millennium Falcon. When Luke's projection finally fades, Kylo realizes he has been outplayed. Luke did not come to win through combat. He came to save the spark of the Resistance and force Kylo to face his own emptiness. He becomes one with the Force while looking out at the twin suns, ending a life shaped by burden and loss. The Resistance is reduced to a handful of survivors aboard the Falcon, but they are alive. Finn finally understands what he is fighting for, and elsewhere in the galaxy, stories of Luke Skywalker's last stand are already spreading. A child on Canto Bight hears the story and reaches out with the Force, proving hope is still moving. The Last Jedi rejects easy victories and comforting myths. It challenges nearly every character idea it inherits. Luke has to face the danger of being worshipped as a legend. Poe has to learn that courage without judgment can kill people. Finn has to grow past survival and choose a cause. Rey has to accept that her worth does not depend on bloodlines. And Kylo has to confront the fact that destroying the past does not heal him. By the end, Star Wars Episode VIII: The Last Jedi becomes more than a story about a chase, a betrayal, or a final stand. It becomes a story about failure and about what kind of hope can survive after failure. It is the harder hope built by people who lose, learn, and still keep going. The light does not return because the past is restored. It returns because someone new decides to carry it forward.